mean streets. You know, I don't know if this Continental Classic is going to be a ratings winner. If it's going to be a ratings bonanza for Tony Khan. I doubt it. I doubt that it's going to bring in huge numbers for him on Dynamite and on Collision. But if you're looking for more of a sports type presentation, straightforward pro wrestling, no bullshit, no interference, none of the gaga that you usually get on these shows and these matches, especially, you know, with the heel factions and everything, Bullet Club Gold and, yeah, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and his crew and all that. If you're looking for just some really good pro wrestling in a sports-like package, that really is what the Continental Classic is. That's what Tony Khan is delivering to you here on these shows. And if you like that kind of wrestling, then I think this tournament is right up your alley. And you probably are enjoying the tournament so far. There have not been any big upsets. I mean, some people might say Brody King beating Eddie Kingston is kind of an upset. I don't really look at it that way. A lot of predictable finishes so far. No major surprises, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from the tournament so far. I'm a big fan of the G1 Climax. So the fact that AEW has effectively created their own and is, you know, having it play out over the course of the next month leading into World's End, which is this brand new pay-per-view that they just added. A brand new tournament leading into a brand new pay-per-view. I like it. I like the concept. I like the idea. I do wish that he would shake up some of the finishes a little bit more. There's still time for that to happen. But what we got tonight was something that I do want to see more of. And that is Swerve Strickland in the main event. The place where Swerve should be is in the main event. And he was in the main event on this show tonight against another worthy man in a main event, that being Switchblade Jay White. They had an excellent match in the Continental Classic tonight. As is the case, I think, on Dynamite every week, they focus more on the Gold League. We have the Blue League on Collision. Here it's the Gold League. And so we had Swerve and Jay White in the main event tonight, with Swerve picking up his second straight win, giving him 6 points so far in the tournament, matching Jon Moxley, who also earned an additional 3 points on the show tonight. So I very much want to see Swerve Strickland in more main events. I want to see him go all the way to the finals. I want to see him win the entire tournament. Especially if he's not going to be challenging for the world title anytime soon, let him win the entire thing. He walked out tonight in that main event. Again, there's just a certain aura around him right now that wasn't there a few months ago. He beats Hangman Page in 2 straight matches. You've got Bryan Danielson on commentary tonight talking about how that Texas death match that he saw between them at Full Gear was the most violent match that he's ever seen. And this is coming from a man who brutalized Ricky Starks in a strap match only a few months ago, which was pretty brutal in its own right. Swerve comes out there, man, and again, he feels like a main event player for the first time in this company. And I want to see that momentum continue. They can use this tournament to continue that momentum. And I think the way to do that is to send him all the way to the end. Hopefully that is where he is headed. Because otherwise, if he doesn't make it to the finals, and I think it would be against Danielson at World's End, I don't know what else he's doing at World's End. And it would be pretty shitty for him not to be on that show. I think he's got a spot with his name on it in that main event at the Nassau Coliseum. We also have a big match that is set up for television next week. It is official. It will be Christian Cage defending his TNT championship against Adam Copeland. Edge and Christian next week in Montreal. It is AEW's Canadian debut in Montreal. Obviously, they made their Canadian debut back in October, but this will be their first time specifically in Montreal. And I'm hoping that Tony Khan resists the urge, as others have done before, to recreate a certain infamous finish from Montreal. Let's not do that. We don't need that. But then again, Christian Cage is a son of a bitch. So who knows? Maybe there'll be some... Look, this is going to be the first match that these two have had in an AEW ring. It will not be the last. And if it were me, I would have I think I would have held off on it for a pay-per-view, but I get them wanting to do the first match on TV. Christian's going to win. And it's going to lead to at least one more match. I would assume at World's End is when the rematch would take place. So this is the first of at least 2 that these 2 men are going to have. Doing it in Canada, I can understand the desire to want to do the match in Canada. So they officially set that match up on TV tonight. And Copeland left Christian with some parting words. Similar parting words as the ones that Christian left him when they shared a ring all those many weeks ago, and they had a big old hug in the middle of the ring, and Christian told him, his best friend of 40 years, go fuck yourself, which became an instant meme. Tonight, Copeland got to turn things around on Christian, and he told Christian to go fuck himself. The only thing is, the TBS censor was a little late. He was a little late on the call there. And so not only did the words slip through, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I don't see why this is even a big deal. All these rules, all these regulations, and the FCC, it's all bullshit. It's all nonsense. I mean, look at some of the stuff that we see on television. Broadcast television, let alone cable television. What's the big deal? If Adam Copeland wants to go out there and tell his friend to go fuck himself. I don't see what the big deal. I don't know why are we so uptight about this here in this country? That all these networks, they're bound by these stupid rules, and they have to bleep the word, as if we haven't heard that word before, as if our virgin ears are going to start burning, and steam is going to start shooting out of our ears if we hear that word. Do you see some of the other bullshit on these cable channels, these reality shows, all this garbage that's on there? I don't even know what the big deal is. It's ridiculous. But obviously they were supposed to edit it out. They didn't do that. Instead, it felt like forever. 5 or 6 seconds later, they decide to play some crowd audio to mute the actual live audio. So I don't know what they muted, I guess, the crowd. I don't know what they were muting in this case. Obviously, they missed the mark there. This guy was later than Papa Shango coming down to the ring to interfere in Hogan and Sid at WrestleMania. I don't know what this person was doing. I don't know if they were out on a cigarette break. I don't know if they were just, I don't know, maybe they were listening to the sound off. They had their AirPods in. They were listening to this weekend's podcast. I don't know what this person was doing, but that was fucking hilarious. This guy had one job, and he failed Miserably. Good. Good. I hope it slips through again. It's all nonsense. MJF was also on the show tonight. The AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Think of the children, Solo. Let me tell you, I got news for you, Bash. The children have heard worse than that. I'm willing to bet the children have heard far worse. MJF comes out tonight on this show. He tweeted and deleted the other day. If he is to be believed. Now, it is MJF that we're talking about here. There's always the possibility that either there's no injury or the injury isn't that bad, but he's trying to play things up for the big World's End main event next month. Always possible. But I'm assuming he's telling the truth when he said that he went to have an MRI done on his shoulder, and his shoulder has a torn labrum. Now, a torn labrum is not a fun injury. A lot of wrestlers have had torn labrums before, and they've worked through them. It's a painful injury. It's one that it's not going to get any better unless you give it time to heal, or if it's bad enough, you have to have surgery for it. It's a bad injury. It's a bad injury. It's not necessarily one that's going to put him on the shelf for 6 to 9 months, although if it's bad enough, it could potentially. But he announced that he has a torn labrum, but he is not going to bow out of his championship match at World's End. He is going to wrestle Samoa Joe on December 30th on Long Island at World's End with a torn labrum. Now, this is a guy who came diving off of the top rope to the floor when the table broke. He was going to do a big elbow drop through the announce desk on Jay White in their match at Full Gear. The table broke. Jay White is laying there, and he has to make a snap decision. What do I do here? We have this big spot planned. The table just collapsed. The table is not cooperating with us here. Do we just abandon the spot and move on? Or do I go all the way up to the top rope and come diving all the way down to the floor, which has no give whatsoever? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And so up he went, and it was a stupid decision. I mean, look, I respect the hell out of him for trying it and wanting to follow through, but it was a stupid decision. And he comes diving off, and apparently he dislocated his hip. And the shoulder injury apparently was suffered on, I think, a Uranagi off the top rope. I don't even know that it was on that spot. But it is kind of odd how you have MJF for so long, right? He's a heel. He would go on social media. He would go on television. And he would mock the other wrestlers on the roster. He would go on social media sometimes and post some very serious, I thought they made a lot of sense. These, I don't call them diatribes, but he would post these kind of missives on his Twitter, talking to talent and saying, look, you don't have to go out there and kill yourselves for these people. These people are bloodthirsty. They don't give a shit about you. And you guys are going out there and you're doing all of these crazy moves and you're wrecking your bodies. And, you know, he's the smart one, right? Because he wouldn't go out there and do that. He's the guy that would go into these matches and he would have a dive tease. Oh, MJF is going to dive, right? Then he would stop short and go, yeah, right. You know, fuck you. But he would do that all the time. Now he's a babyface. And ever since he became a babyface, we've seen him do things that he's never done before to try to pop the audience. He had that amazing leaping cutter out over the top rope at Full Gear. He caught Jay White, took him all the way down to the floor, right? It looked great. He's done dives now in other matches. He always said he wouldn't dive. He's been diving. The biggest one being the big elbow drop to the floor. And this guy now, all of a sudden, he's all banged up. He's dislocating his hip. He's got a torn labrum. He's like the walking wounded here. I think MJF was making a lot more sense. He should take his own advice back when he was saying what he was saying before. He's the last person that Tony Khan can afford to have on the shelf. He has to be protected at all costs. You got to be smart about this, especially with Adam Cole being down. The last thing they need is MJF to be on the injured list for an extended period of time. And look, again, if the injury is what he says it is, I commend him for wanting to do the match and wanting to soldier on. I don't know that that's the smart thing for him to be doing. I'm not even sure they would know the extent of the tear and how bad the injury is until they open him up. If he was going to go under the knife, maybe he can rehab it, right? That would be the best outcome here. It's not that bad. He can rehab it without surgery, but he was a little short in the way of details. All I know is that your world champion has a torn labrum coming off a dislocated hip, and he's all banged up going into this pay-per-view coming up, you have to think there's a pretty decent chance that he's not going to walk out of that show as the AEW World Champion. Samoa Joe may well walk out of that pay-per-view with the title, even if it's just a token title run. He may end up getting one. Now, even before this injury news came out, I already thought there was a pretty decent chance that MJF was going to lose anyway at World's End, because we might get the payoff to this Devil storyline. The Devil might reveal himself, and that might be what leads to MJF losing his title. So this only increases the likelihood, in my opinion, that MJF is walking in as the champion and he's not walking out with that title. But again, they better hope that that injury isn't worse than it already is believed to be, and that he can rehab it on his own without having to go under the knife, because now you're possibly talking about months. And you've already got Adam Cole, who's going to be out for an extended period of time. So the timing could not be any worse on that. But he was on this show tonight, and they did do another angle involving the Devil. The Devil was not there, as far as we know. Unless the Devil was unmasked and he was right in front of our face. But the Devil was not there. The Devil's henchman was. And then we had some writing that ended up on screen. And we'll get into all the ins and outs of it. But basically, there's going to be a tag team match on TV next week. Which is why I always have a little bit of caution when it comes to these, really anything involving MJF. Because I would like to think that if he was as banged up as he says he is, and he really does have a torn labrum, why is he wrestling on TV next week? Why would you even put him in the ring? Again, it's a little odd to me, but it's not as if we haven't had injured people that Tony Khan has thrown out there before on his show. Hey, go ahead, Bryan Danielson apparently wrestled with a broken orbital bone. The match that everybody thought he suffered the injury, and he actually suffered it the week before. And he wrestled with the injury. So who knows what Tony Khan is willing to let these people go out there and do. We're going to talk about the show, though. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. I am the Solomonster. It's been a hell of a month. It has been a hell of a month. We had Full Gear, which was a wild night and a wild stream here on the channel. Survivor Series was our biggest stream ever. And it was actually, we had a lot of activity going on Monday night as well. So hopefully we'll be able to end here on a strong note. We are celebrating 16 years of the Sound Off all month long. So you may see some classic clips spliced in here during the stream. Do not be alarmed. You are not on the wrong stream. We're just splicing in some fun moments from the past. Like and subscribe. 400 likes is the goal for our Be the Booker segment tonight. Super chats are open. There is a new $69 one as well for those of you who care about that. And a shout out to Lady Fire Panda. I know you're with us. Fire Panda is celebrating a birthday, so I want everybody in the chat to wish Fire Panda a very happy birthday. And Fire Panda also gifted 30 channel memberships before we went live. She's trying to give Silver Tower a run for his money. I said, I don't know, it's going to be hard. It's like David and Goliath, but thank you for the 30 memberships, though. That is awesome. So Bryan Danielson was out to join Excalibur and Taz on commentary here for all of the Continental Classic tournament matches on this show. He was out there. He had the bandage over his eye. He is going to be back in the ring. His first match back since the injury. He's going to be on Collision this Saturday wrestling Eddie Kingston. But for tonight, he was just on commentary duty in the first of 3 Gold League matches here on this show. We open with Jon Moxley one-on-one with Jay Lethal. Jon Moxley, a winner last week. Jay Lethal, a loser. I have a feeling you're going to be hearing me say that a lot more often as this tournament goes on. So Lethal slapped on an early figure 4 leg lock. Moxley rolled outside. He was still in the hold, though, and both men crashed to the floor. Lethal connected on a dive, and then he did a Fargo strut, and that allowed Moxley the chance to hit a dive of his own. Moxley, though, landed awkwardly on the leg that he was working over. Lethal was. And Lethal made that his focus pretty much for the remainder of the match, was the injured leg. Moxley connected on a desperation cutter, and then we had a forearm exchange that led to a King Kong lariat. Lethal countered the Death Rider into a lethal combination. He wanted a figure four. He got it. Moxley, though, made it to the ropes, and he punted Moxley's leg. Lethal wanted after that the lethal injection, but Moxley dropped down to the mat in a turtle-like position. He dropped to the mat, and he covered up like a little turtle. So Lethal went over to get him, and of course Moxley was just playing possum. He ended up dropping him with a double-arm DDT. Moxley followed with a pile driver, and then he got a rear naked choke. He got Lethal down on the mat. There was nowhere for him to go, and he tapped out. A shout out to Amirk, who just subscribed to the channel. I appreciate that. So Lethal, he tried to hold on. He couldn't. He tapped out. Moxley picks up 3 points, which in addition to the points he got last week, gives him 6 points so far in this tournament. Lethal, this is his second straight loss. I still think that Mark Briscoe should have gotten the win over Moxley in the main event last week. I maintain that. I think that would have been the way to go. Give him the upset win. Sets the tone here for the rest of the tournament that anything can happen instead of being, playing the predictable card. They didn't do that. They want to keep Moxley strong. They want to have him on a roll until maybe he'll lose. Maybe there'll be an upset a little bit deeper into the tournament. I'll tell you what, though, I am digging these Jay Lethal matches without all the outside nonsense and all the outside interference. I'd like to see, I guess we'll keep getting it for as long as the tournament is going on for. After that, I guess it'll be back to the usual. He may well make it through this tournament without any points. I'm hoping they give him at least one. Just give him one. Just give him a bone to chew on. You know, he may go winless in this thing. Speaking of winless, Bobbert reviews activating Brie mode. Happy birthday, Fire Panda. There you go. I love it. How about that? Showing some love to Fire Panda. That's very cool. Hey, Bobbert, thank you. So after the match, we got some comments from Collision. This was backstage at Collision on Saturday. I actually like this segment a lot. It was Eddie Kingston after his loss to Brody King. He was sulking. He was down, sitting up against the wall in the hallway backstage. And he said, maybe I got a little cocky, coming into this tournament and putting both of my titles into the pot. Again, when he announced that he was putting both of his titles on the line in this thing at Full Gear, he said it would be in every single match. And either he misspoke or Tony Khan changed his mind, because later on, Tony Khan clarified that the titles would be effectively decided in the finals. It's not as if, he lost to Brody King, and so now Brody King is the Ring of Honor World Champion. So they're not technically on the line in every match. But he said maybe he got a little cocky, but he said humble in victory, humble in defeat. And he just said, basically onward from here. We have to regroup. We have to heal up. It was a very straightforward promo. I like the way that they're, again, playing up the sports aspect of this. So here in this promo, you have him talking about how I'm going to get myself right. I'm going to come back strong. Again, it's just very straightforward stuff, which is really what this tournament has been so far. When they cut back to the announce desk, Danielson cut a fiery promo about the confidence that Kingston had when he put both of his titles on the line in the tournament compared to now when he's talking about being behind the 8 ball. He said that he fractured his orbital bone, not only in one spot, but in 2 places. And he had surgery, and yet he was coming into this tournament with confidence. He said he's coming into this tournament to win. Bryan Danielson cuts a better promo sitting on his ass at the commentary table than a lot of wrestlers do in the middle of the ring. This was great. And I think that match coming up on Collision is also going to be great. Now, Danielson and Kingston had a match. And I don't remember exactly when it was. It was last year or 2 years ago. They had a match on television that I think they had a match anyway, unless I'm mistaking it for Kingston and Punk. But I think Kingston wrestled Danielson as well. I think they're going to have a very good match on Collision this weekend. And hopefully Danielson does not break something. Please, can we get through a month without Bryan Danielson breaking something? He breaks his arm, he breaks his eye socket. Gonna have to wrap this guy up in bubble wrap between now and World's End. Back from the break, Tony Schiavone is backstage to let us know the date of Sting's retirement match. Now, we knew that Revolution was going to be in March because generally the pay-per-view is sometime in early March. We just didn't have an actual date. Well, now we have a date and we have a location. He said that the date is going to be Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. He said, what more fitting place for Sting's final match than the legendary Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. He mentioned Sting's undefeated streak. He is 24-0. He's like the Undertaker of AEW. If he couldn't wrestle the Undertaker, now he's trying to mimic the Undertaker. He's trying to follow in his footsteps. Not even the Undertaker went 24-0. Sting is 24-0, according to Tony Schiavone. The longest win streak in AEW. And then he introduced Sting on one side, and he brought in Ric Flair on the other. And Sting talked about March of 1988, his very first world title match was against Ric Flair, and he would have never guessed that he would be standing here 35 some odd years later with Rick and with Tony. He said they went 45 minutes in that match, commercial free. I don't know why they stressed that. They mentioned that a few times. I know we had that commercial-free first hour on Raw Monday. Is there some kind of connection here? He was really stressing the commercial-free aspect of this. 45 minutes commercial-free. He thanked Rick for putting him on the map, and he agrees. What a fitting place for him to end his career all of these years later. So Flair then piped up. Now it was Flair's turn. And Flair said, the words cannot be spoken to the volume and emphasis of what is about to take place. Make no mistake, I did not make Sting. He made himself. 45 minutes, commercial free, with Sting. Unthinkable. He didn't rehearse it. He didn't talk about it. He went out and I kind of wish he would have left that out. We really need Ric Flair here in this promo on television talking about rehearsing shit. Come on. If it was a DDP match, I mean, that might be. You got to read through all the pages and everything. But he says they didn't have to rehearse it. They just went out and did it. And now here he is with Sting working for Tony Khan, and he's standing next to Tony Schiavone, his best friend, and he's going back to Greensboro. He said, Highway 85 will be lined up from Richmond to Charlotte, like it always used to be. And then Tony Schiavone told us that tickets go on sale for Revolution on Friday, December 15th. So this was like a classic 80s style promo to hype up an upcoming event. You know, we're coming to the Greensboro Coliseum in a week. Tickets are on sale right now. Let's bring in Sting and Ric Flair here. It's like a classic 80s wrestling promo. You know, except Ric Flair now is 1,000 years old and he mumbles over himself. But, you know, they had Ric Flair all over the place yesterday. He was all over because they were in Minnesota tonight. So he was all over the Twin Cities. He was all over Minneapolis and everything. He was doing radio interviews. He was doing television interviews. He was doing all kinds of media stuff and appearances for AEW. And honestly, that's the best way to use Ric Flair. If they're going to use him for something, I don't really have any desire to see him doing anything on television. But if you're going to use him in an ambassador role and you're going to send him out there to do media stuff and hype, you know, we got Dynamite coming to town, you know, woo! And he goes out there and does the woo, and then the TV anchor does the woo with him. Fine, right? That's an acceptable use of Ric Flair. And it's smart, too, because I think they need to start doing even more of that as far as, like, local advertising for some of these shows. They're having difficulty selling tickets in a lot of these markets. You just look out there and you can just see these half-empty buildings. And so if they're doing local media, I don't think they're doing enough local media. They need to be doing more local media. And if that means using a name like Ric Flair, who people know, to go out there and get people hyped up to buy tickets for Dynamite or buy tickets for Collision, then that's how you should be using someone like Ric Flair. So it's smart. But now we know the date and we know the location. for Revolution. They were just at the Greensboro Coliseum for a Collision in August. So they've run that building before. Obviously, though, with Sting, there's a lot of history there. So, it's his most famous match. Right? It's the 45-minute draw with Flair that put him on the map. It's still the most famous match of his career. The most infamous match of his career. Arguably is Starrcade 97. Some people might say the match with Seth Rollins because it's the match that really should have ended his career. I would say Starrcade is the more infamous match. But, Clash of the Champions is his most famous match, so it's pretty cool that he's going back there. In our second Continental Classic match of the night, we had Mark Briscoe one-on-one with Roosh. And Roosh is someone that we usually do not get to see on Dynamite. He is usually kept to the Saturday show. And so it was nice to see him on Wednesday for a change. Before they went to the picture-in-picture, Mark Briscoe was laying on the mat. Both men were down. Mark Briscoe's laying on the mat, and it looked like he ate something off the mat. Picked it up, put it in his mouth, and Taz and Excalibur on commentary, they started laughing. Now, I think it was his gum. I think he had gum in his mouth, and the gum fell out. It looked like an M&M to me. Maybe a fan threw an M&M in the ring, or I didn't see anything flying in, though. It looked like an M&M, but I'm assuming it was his gum. It fell out of his mouth. He just picks it up and just swallows the fucking thing right back in his mouth. And I'm like, man, this guy, I guess there's the 5-second rule, right? Is that what it is? It's the 5-second rule. It couldn't have been out of his mouth for more than 2 or 3 seconds. So I guess he's within the range, but I don't know. I mean, he's a braver man than I am. You're in that ring, you've got dirt from people's boots, you've got all kinds of fluids all over the ring, you've got spit, you've got sweat. Usually, in an AEW show, by that point, you've got blood, especially Jon Moxley went on in the opening match. I didn't see any blood, though. You got all kinds of fluids on the mat. You're playing a dangerous game here. I'm just saying. Has more guts than I do. You don't know what you're going to pick up in that ring. Roosh looked like he got hurt early in the match. He grabbed his leg. He was down. He was talking to the referee. He was not moving around well. There were parts of this match in the first half where he almost looked immobile. So either he was doing a really good job of selling or he hurt his leg. But he finished the match. And not only did he finish the match, he ended up having a damn good match too with Mark Briscoe. The doctor checked on Roosh's leg during the break. Briscoe connected with an exploder. Roosh hit a backdrop driver, and then he was looking for bull's horns, only for Briscoe to explode out of the corner into the spear. Solomonster is obviously not one of dem boys. No, see, I'm not one of dem boys that wants to pick up a staph infection or some other disease in the ring. That's me. You can count me out of that club. I am not one of dem boys. That is correct. So he came out of the corner, Briscoe did with a spear. Roosh escaped the J-Driller. Briscoe then opted for an enziguri, and that sent Roosh to the apron. Briscoe followed him out to the apron, and he came charging in. And Roosh grabbed him and delivered an overhead suplex, and Briscoe went flying all the way down and crashed and burned on the ground. That did not look like a happy ending for Mark Briscoe. Happy ending. That's another thing. You never know what's going on. Maybe before the show there was a happy ending in that ring. You don't know what kind of fluids are in the ring. I'm just saying. It's gross. Come on, man. What are you doing? I don't know who they let in that ring before the show. I don't know what Doc Samson does and Justin Roberts does before the show starts. Moxley and Renee, right? Haven't they talked about weird places they've had sex before on their pod? You don't know what they're doing in the ring before the show. Can you imagine? And then he picks up the gum and puts it back in his mouth. Anyway, so that did not look like a fun landing for Mark Briscoe. Both men fought in the corner. Roosh got knocked backwards, though, off the ropes, landed flat on his back. Briscoe hit the froggy bow, only got 2. Roosh again avoided the J-Driller. He hit an overhead throw into the corner, and he followed with the bull's horns, and he got the win. which I was happy to see. I'm glad that Rush picked up the win here. If he did hurt himself, my hope is that it's something like a pulled hamstring or something that is relatively minor and it's nothing serious. The last thing this company needs is another injury. So let's hope that Rush is okay. But this was real good stuff. I would like to see him. I would like to see Rush be one of the beneficiaries of this tournament. I've talked about Swerve Strickland and hoping that he comes out of this in a better position than he was in coming into it. Rush is another one of those guys. More than most, who I would like to see benefit from this in some way. I mentioned that we don't usually see him on the Wednesday show. Why not? Why not let him make some more appearances on Dynamite? Let's get him on Dynamite and Collision. He doesn't. Why segregate the man to one show? Why only have him on Collision or Rampage and Collision and not Dynamite, right? The more we see of him, the better. So he's someone who could actually end up better off coming out of this tournament if Tony Khan actually follows up on that and has a plan for him. And of course, I know, there I go assuming again, but one can hope. RJ City was backstage with timeless Toni Storm. She was laying on a couch with her legs in his lap. Luther and Mariah May were standing behind them watching on. And Toni was insulted about her acceptance speech last week being interrupted. That was by Sky Blue. But still went out and partied at the compound with JFK and the Kennedys. But she's exhausted and she has a touch of the gout. Maybe she got that in the ring too. RJ asks if she's worried that she has to defend her AEW Women's World title next week. And Toni name dropped a bunch of old Hollywood stars and said that if they weren't worried, then neither was she. And then she asked if RJ would take her shoes off for her to end the segment, which he did. And Taz, on commentary, he said the gout is no joke. That's a public service announcement from Taz. So remember my idea for Mariah May before she even came into AEW, when there was rumors that they might bring her in and that she might be doing something with Toni Storm, the whole idea of her standing in for Toni as her surrogate, when Toni doesn't want to wrestle, she's too exhausted or she's hurt and, she wants the night off. Mariah May can step in. So I think that's where this is headed. They said that she's defending the title next week. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. Maybe she won't be able to. Maybe Mariah May is going to take her place. And then we had the AEW World Champion, MJF, which we will get to right after this.
AEW is bringing in a lot of managers for their wrestlers. Do you think they could benefit if they were to bring in Disco Inferno as a manager for someone?
No. Nope. Elias has a new album dropping tomorrow. It's called Universal Truth. Universal being one of the many titles that Elias will never hold. We, as the viewer, can see exactly where this is going. Poor Jey Uso, he's clouded by family and friendship. My Us, we've known each other since we were kids, dog. Come on, man. Like, this is Jey Uso talking on TV like he and Roman Reigns are thick as thieves. They're best friends. This fucking guy has no idea what's coming. We had the AEW World Champion out next. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. This man is the walking wounded. Comes out there. He's got his walking stick. They're talking on commentary about the injured shoulder, which I talked about before, the torn labrum. But he's all smiles, and he's got his title wrapped around his waist. He makes his way down to the ring. He says it's going to be him and Samoa Joe at World's End for the AEW World Championship. He said, Samoa Joe as a person, not a fan. Not a fan of the guy. But professionally, he respects him. He said he didn't come here to line his pockets. He came here because he believes in those three letters. And he was pointing at the AEW logo, and the fans started chanting AEW. He said back in the early 2000s, he remembers getting a poster in his mailbox that said TNA Wrestling. I never got that. Did he just randomly get a TNA Wrestling poster in the mail? How come I didn't get that? He must have ordered it. He must have asked for it. He didn't know what it was. And he tuned in, and he loved what he saw. And that included the Samoan submission machine. He said he may have looked a little unconventional. Joe maybe did not look like your typical wrestling star who was pushed at that time. He didn't seem to care, and neither did the fans, because the fans knew that when he walked through that curtain, he was the baddest man on God's green earth. Unfortunately, later on, he was not afforded the opportunity to be a world champion when he was in WWE. Boo! The boo birds were out. I agree. Don't even get me started on that. Now, to be fair, Joe did get bitten by the injury bug quite a bit when he was in WWE. He did have a run with the NXT Championship when he was on the NXT brand. But, again, I go back to that Great Balls of Fire match, man. And that, the story over the years has been that Brock Lesnar supposedly wanted to lose to him. Or was willing, anyway, to drop the championship, the Universal title, to Samoa Joe when they had their match that one time on pay-per-view. Vince McMahon did not see Samoa Joe in that role, though. He did not want Samoa Joe to have the championship. That was a mistake. That was his turn right there. That was his opportunity, and they missed it. And it sucks, but he's right. He was not afforded the opportunity. He said, but Samoa Joe proved that you did not have to be a male model bodybuilder to be successful. Without a guy like Joe, there may be no AEW. So Joe, as much as it pains me to admit, he says, thank you. And what was the last time that you can remember MJF being this complimentary to someone other than Adam Cole, to an opponent going into a match? He said, while he's happy to go down the road Joe helped pave, he's not doing too shabby himself. He says he's been in AEW since day one, and he's helped build this place brick by brick, and he did it by beating some of the biggest names in this industry. Names like Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, which did get some boos, Bryan Danielson, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and Kenny Omega. But of all the names that he's faced, of all the names that he has set foot in the ring with, the one he feels the most fortunate to have been able to survive is Samoa Joe. But December 30th is not about Joe's legacy, it's about his legacy. It's about whether Max Friedman can outlast the final boss of this sport one more time. So now he's going to make a promise to everybody watching at home and everybody in the building. Joe, on December 30th, I don't care if my left knee keeps sliding in and out. Well, I guess that's another injury. I don't care if my left knee keeps sliding in and out. I don't care if my hip keeps popping out of its socket. I don't care if my shoulder is hanging by a thread. I am going to show the world at the Nassau Coliseum. It is not about the size of the dog in the fight. It is about the size of the fight in the dog. And if Joe wants to take the title from him, he's going to have to put him down. The arena went dark at this point. And then we got a strobe light effect. So I hope nobody is prone to seizures here. We got the strobe light effect on MJF in the ring. When the lights, though, came back on, 4 of the Devil's Rejects were in the ring. They were holding MJF down, and there was one masked man in the ring, got, I think, a baseball bat in his hand. And they were about to lay a beatdown on MJF when Samoa Joe's music hit. Now, as soon as Samoa Joe's music hit, he was already at ringside. So why did we need his music to play? If he wasn't coming down the aisle, if he came out of the crowd and he was already there, the fuck are they playing his music for? There were a lot of very weird production miscues on this show. Something wasn't right with this show. There were a lot of weird things on this show, just little things, nothing overly major, but and I don't even blame them for the whole censor thing later. That's on TBS. But there were just a lot of weird moments. That was just weird. Like, why even play his music? So anyway, he's already there. He's at ringside. He pulls the guy out of the ring. He saves MJF because, of course, he wants MJF at his best. That's what he told MJF. Remember, MJF was willing to wrestle him in the ring last week. And Joe said, absolutely not. I don't want you to go on the internet. I don't want you to go on social media and piss, bitch, and moan and complain that, I was hurt. I wasn't 100%. I want you at your best. So he didn't want MJF to get hurt here because he's got his title match coming up at World's End. He wants this guy to be in tip-top shape, even though he's not going to be. He ain't going to be in tip-top shape come World's End. But anyway, he made the save for MJF. Now, the screen goes black. And we don't see the devil. We see words on the screen. This reminded me of, they did this stuff with Sting in WWE. In fact, this was, I think, the promo that was him accepting the match with Triple H, I think, at WrestleMania. Wasn't it? They had a promo with, like, words on the screen. I'm like, what are they doing? So we had words on the screen here. It said, "In the shadows, our game begins. Next week, MJF and Samoa Joe. Will you face the unknown in a tag match? Are you a hero, Max?" Now, Joe was not interested in a tag team match for the reasons I just mentioned, because he wants MJF to be at his best. And he's hurt, and he's injured, and he doesn't want him to get further injured. MJF gets on the mic, and he says he's sick of the Scooby-Doo bullshit. He's going to take out every single one of them, and he accepts the match. And this pissed off Samoa Joe, but he accepted, so it's already a done deal. After the break, Excalibur, they come back to the announcers. And Excalibur said that AEW, this was great. This is great. He says AEW IT security is on the case. They're investigating the issue here. AEW IT security. I wonder if Tony Khan has Bryan Danielson heading that team up too. Apparently they have an IT security team. And they're going to be heading up an investigation into exactly what's going on here. Tony Schiavone says they believe this to be an internal matter. And whoever it is has the ability to tap into their lighting and broadcast system. So basically, it's every group that has ever had the lights go out before they magically appear in the ring. So maybe it's the House of Black. Did anybody interview Malachi Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews? Every time they show up, the lights go out, right? Then the lights come back on. Maybe it's them. They're going to investigate, though. They're going to get to the bottom of it. Maybe it's retribution. I mean, Mustafa Ali is going to be a free agent, right? About another month, his non-compete's going to be up. It worked out so well for him the first time. Schiavone then said that Tony Khan agreed to give MJF what he wants. And so next week on Dynamite, it's going to be MJF and Joe against a mystery tag team in Montreal. Tony Khan allowing his world champion here, if we look at this storyline-wise, he is allowing his world champion to go out there after admitting that he has a torn labrum and all of these other injuries. Tony Khan is okay with putting his world champion in the ring next week at a tag team match. Okay. The thing about the MJF promo that I liked, I mean, we've seen MJF promos that are a lot deeper and longer and better than this one. But the thing I liked about this one is the fact that unlike most of his other promos and almost every promo when he was a heel, he didn't go out there and bury his opponent. He didn't go out there and lob these kind of schoolyard insults at him and talk about how much better he is than him. He put him over. I don't think I've ever heard him put somebody over as strongly in a promo than he did Samoa Joe here tonight on this show. He put him over, and then at the very end, he brought it back to himself, and he said that at World's End, he's going to be the one to come out on top. That's how you do it. It doesn't benefit him to go out there and say, I already beat you once, you suck, you know, because all you're doing is tearing down your opponent. So when you beat him, who cares? What's the big deal, right? You build him up. You talk about how, you know what, I don't like you on a personal level, but professionally, man, I mean, I've been watching you forever. You're a badass. I respect you. But on December 30th, I'm going to beat you. I have to beat you. Again, basic stuff here from this guy, this promo. This is exactly what it needed to be. Very straightforward stuff, to the point. Now, again, I wonder how things are going to go at World's End. I think you got to take the injury situation into the equation. You've got the devil situation that I don't think is going to be resolved at least until World's End. I mean, I'm of the mind that we get some kind of reveal at that show, but whether we do or not, this is at least going that far. I think it might culminate there. Maybe we get a new chapter. because once we get the reveal, we're going to have obviously a faction, a group of some kind, and then it's going to move into whatever the next chapter of this story is going to be. Take your pick as far as who the devil is. We've been talking about this now for weeks. There's plenty of options as to who the devil could be. It could end up being Adam Cole. They're just going to drag it out for a while, and it'll be Adam Cole. It could be Roderick Strong. It could be Jack Perry, which I agree. I mean, I'm here for the laughs if it turns out to be Jack Perry. But if it actually ends up being Jack Perry, I admit that's pretty fucking bad. Although I would love to see the meltdown. I'm not going to lie. But you've got a lot of different options here. Samoa Joe, there was part of me when this was over that felt like Joe coming to his aid. Maybe they're doing that to throw us off the scent. And we're going to come to find out that if either Joe is the devil or Joe has some connection or affiliation here to the people who are doing this. It just doesn't strike me as the sort of thing that Samoa Joe character would do, though, to get all dressed up and, he's the devil. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to fit his modus operandi to me. But, put him on the list too. Yes, Joe could have some kind of connection here. This could all be some kind of a sham. And again, he wins the world title. And we come to find out that this whole thing was orchestrated by him. After he lost at Grand Slam, he concocted this whole plan to get himself back into a position to challenge for the title. And this was all part of some grand master plan. I don't think it's going to be Joe, but can't discount the possibility. But I enjoyed the MJF promo, though. I like the fact that he really put Joe over before he gave us his mission statement at the end. Now we had Wardlow, someone else who was not very fond of MJF. Wardlow against AR Fox. Now Fox, he caught Wardlow on the apron when he was coming into the ring with a big boot and knocked him off. And then he came out and hit a dive. He tried his step-up moonsault from the apron. Wardlow caught him, though, in midair. And he slammed Fox on the apron. The match officially began. Wardlow launched him. He beeled him 3/4 of the way across the ring. Then he was stalking him on the floor. He tossed him back into the ring and onto his head. Fox escaped a gorilla press, took out the legs. He had a 450 splash, but Wardlow kicked out at 1. Wardlow started no-selling some strikes until a spinebuster and a wind-up lariat connected. 2 power bombs followed. Wardlow hit a huge senton after him. He does the swanton bomb better than Jeff Hardy does. Huge swanton bomb off the top. 1 final power bomb that forced the ref stoppage. Ref said, no mas, that's it. And Wardlow left the ring. This was the most offense that anybody has gotten on Wardlow since he came back. But the end result was exactly the same as it's been. If MJF really is hurt, his shoulder, and he really does have a torn labrum, and it turns out to be a serious enough injury that they have no choice but to get the belt off of him. And honestly, you could do this even if he isn't seriously injured, but they want to take the belt off him at World's End anyway. But you have Wardlow destroy him. You have Wardlow destroy him going into that pay-per-view match. So now we know MJF is not 100%. If he goes on to lose, he's got this built-in issue with Wardlow now when he comes back. As far as the two of them, they kind of go off and do their thing, and he has a reason to come back and go after Wardlow before trying to get his belt back. Just for Wardlow's sake, I mean, you can use that if he's going to lose anyway, to try to, put some heat on Wardlow before MJF goes away to get all healed up. Just thinking of ways that they could use this to Wardlow's advantage if MJF really is that hurt. But we've seen the devil stuff before, where the men have attacked the Acclaimed and other people. And there's one guy who usually, and I didn't notice it in this segment when the masked men came out before, but one guy who had the body type and the movements of Wardlow. And we've heard that the people that are dressed up as these, we'll call them ninjas, are the actual people who may be revealed in those roles when we get the reveal. The devil is probably played by someone, it doesn't even matter who it is, right? But supposedly the people in those costumes are the people that will be ultimately revealed. So Wardlow may be one of the henchmen. He may have a connection to this devil stuff. He is not the devil, but he may end up being one of the devil's henchmen. and part of whatever this group is going to be, because he is just so dead set on getting revenge on MJF. He may be part of this whole plot. But gotta have to do something with Wardlow, man. This guy comes out there, and before he would come out and he felt like a star. Now Wardlow comes out, that star has burned out. They've got to reignite it somehow. But again, this guy, he comes to the ring and there's just, I don't know, man, that feeling is gone. It's just gone. It's just not there. And I really hope for his sake, because he seems like a nice guy and he's got a good head on his shoulders. If you ever listen to him do interviews, he seems like someone that you would want to push as one of your top stars. And I want to see him succeed. I think he still could be a big star, whether it's for Tony Khan or whether it's for Triple H. I think he could still be a big star. I just don't know if that's going to happen in AEW. I don't know. You get these opportunities sometimes where somebody gets hot, and if you don't capitalize on that, that opportunity may not come back at you again. And I don't blame him for that. It's not Wardlow's fault that he got shafted. It really is it's an egregious situation with him, what happened to him. So I hope they can heat him up again, because again, it's wild to think of where he was and where he is now, and that they have to rehab him and they have to rebuild him. They shouldn't have to do that. This man shouldn't have needed rehab in the first place. Speaking of rehab, we had the Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy against Action Andretti and the reunited Top Flight. Dante Martin is back. He got to wrestle in his hometown tonight, so we got a nice reaction from the crowd when he came out. They replayed the sickening spot from the Super Card of Honor show, the Ring of Honor pay-per-view back in March, where they had that big multi-team ladder match for the tag team titles. And I am actually shocked that he even was able to make it back this year. I didn't think we were going to see him back in the ring again until 2024. So just seeing him out there is pretty amazing. When you watch that injury back, and they replayed the entire thing, I mean, it's the Sid Vicious injury from WCW, and it's just absolutely sickening. But there he was, and he was back out there, and we haven't seen the Hardys on the show either in a hot minute. It was very weird seeing them on Dynamite for a change. The Hardy squad isolated Action Andretti coming out of a break. Dante and Darius, they came back. They put Matt Hardy down. Brother Zay, he shoved one of the Martin brothers into the other and then rolled up Dante for a 2 count. Darius and Action Andretti took out the Hardys on the floor. Brother Zay took a shotgun drop kick into a German suplex from Action Andretti and Darius, and then Dante hit a spinning side slam, which allowed him to get the pin and the win for his team. So gets to pick up a win in his hometown, his first match back on Dynamite in a very long time. And Dante didn't do anything too crazy in this match. He was moving around fine. He should not be doing anything too crazy anymore. I would like to think that that injury is a lesson learned. Not that he shouldn't do anything off the top rope, or he shouldn't be diving or anything like that. I mean, that's his whole style. I'm not saying he should just change his entire style. What I'm saying is, though, what he did at that Ring of Honor pay-per-view, while it was a very spectacular move, it was a very stupid move. And he's not the only one at fault for that. But it was a very stupid spot. And it never should have happened in the first place. Unfortunately, this is what happened. And it's not even a Darius Martin issue. I'm not trying to beat up on him. It's just, you see this in wrestling, in all promotions, big and small, where everybody just keeps trying to escalate things and try things in these ladder matches, for example, that have never been done before. And all that's going to end up doing is resulting in somebody getting seriously hurt, because think of all the ladder matches, all the TLC matches, that we've seen over the years. And for people to constantly feel like they have to keep topping themselves and topping other people, and they come up with these very convoluted spots and with ladder bridges and diving off of them and stuff, you're just asking for trouble. And there are just some things that when you look at it, you should have enough sense to go, you know what? That's really stupid. We're not going to do that. But I get it, they have the adrenaline is going. They're like, oh man, I think I can pull it off. I think I can do it. It'll get a big reaction if we do it. It got a reaction. It definitely got a reaction. Unfortunately, Dante was going this way and his leg was going the other way. And I don't ever want to see that. I don't want to see anybody get hurt like that. And you can get hurt like that doing almost anything. I mentioned the Sid injury. Sid was not taking a destroyer off of a ladder bridge when he got hurt. He literally jumped off the second rope and snapped his fucking leg. But there's another example. Why is a guy like Sid Vicious coming off the ropes? He didn't even want to do the spot. I think it was Johnny Ace over there who told him, you got to do it. And his leg just snapped, right? It's just stupid. There are just certain things you shouldn't do. So my hope is he's going to go out there. He's going to fly. I mean, he's part of a team called Top Flight, right? He's going to fly. He's going to do a lot of crazy stuff. I just hope he can tone it down enough to where he's learned something out of this to not do really stupid shit or get talked into doing really stupid shit. Like an injury like that, I'm trying to put myself in that position. I wouldn't even want to leave the ground after that if that happened to me. I would be so gun shy to even attempt something like that. Like, I feel like I'd be in my own head. I'd be my own worst enemy in a situation like that. I feel like coming back from something like that, an injury like that, as much as it's the physical, there's a mental component to it where you've got to make sure that you can get over that fear of what if it happens again. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I would be able to overcome that. So I have a lot of respect for these guys when they're able to come back and, God bless them. They just go back to doing what they were doing before and they're coming off the top rope. I would just be so terrified that, every time I come and I land, my leg is going to snap, something's going to happen. I'd be so gun shy. But it's good to see him back. Now, Renee was backstage with Top Flight and Action Andretti, and she congratulated them on their victory and asked Dante how the leg was feeling. Before he could even answer, Penta showed up. And Penta, of course, was the one who did the spot with him in that match. Penta showed up with Alex Abrahantes. And they shared a fist bump, Penta and Dante did. And then Penta ushered in Commander and Vikingo. And so we had a tease for a trios match, which is going to be taking place. I don't know when. It could be next week. I don't think they announced. But obviously, we're going to be getting that match. So much for me hoping that Dante Martin wouldn't do anything stupid. I can't imagine that if they're going to have that as a trios match, we're not going to get a lot of stupid shit going on in that match. So forget everything I just said. I think in that match, that's going to just all be out the window. Now we had Julia Hart one-on-one with Emi Sakura for the TBS Championship under House Rules, which the House of Black was using when they were the Trios champs. They had the House Rules matches, which means 20 counts, no rope breaks, and the challenger gets to pick the final stipulation, which in this case, Emi Sakura said no submissions. Now, why would she say that? Because Julia Hart has Heartless, which is her submission hold, and she couldn't use it. Or if she did, she wouldn't be able to win the match with it. So she's immediately taking away the champion's finishing move, or one of her finishing moves, because she's been using the moonsault. She should have said no moonsaults. So Julia connected on an early handspring clothesline in the corner. Sakura was unimpressed, and she fired off some chops. JP says we're only 20 likes away from 400. Oh, we should already be at 400. Chop. Speaking of chops, let's get to 400. Who's going to be number 400? Julia blocked a chop and slammed Emi on the outside, and then Sakura came back. She reversed the whip and sent Julia crashing into the ring steps, and then she charged in with a low crossbody against the steps. That took us into commercial. Sakura connected on a stalling double underhook backbreaker. She was holding her up, man, in this double underhook position for a good 15 seconds, and then dropped her with the backbreaker. She tried for it again, but Hart countered into a sleeper and transitioned into a head scissors. Sakura escaped and then missed the top rope moonsault. Julia applied Heartless and Emi Sakura was tapping, but Aubrey Edwards is there telling her it doesn't count. No. Remember, house rules. Sakura said no submission, so it doesn't count. Hart followed with a lariat to the back of the head, and with Emi Sakura down on the mat, Julia Hart went up to the top rope, and she came off with her moonsault. Now, Julia Hart, in past matches that I have seen her in, has hit a picture-perfect moonsault, right? Usually her form is perfect, and it looks great. This was not one of those times. It looked like she maybe overshot it. That combined with the fact that Sakura was like turning away. I think what she may have been doing, she might have been trying to roll herself into a better position to take the move, but it just didn't work. It just did not look good, but they went with that anyway as the finish because that was the planned finish, and Julia pinned her. And just to tack on at the end, Sakura kicked out at 3.5. We got the Hogan WrestleMania 6 kick out here from Emi Sakura. The botched finish aside, I thought that this was good. I enjoyed the rest of it. And Julia coming out of full gear. She won the title. Now she's starting to rack up some wins. They need to get her into a program soon because we got World's End coming up, and I'd like to see her with an opponent lined up already and some kind of a story to go into it. You know, who's she going to wrestle? We already know that Sky Blue is being set up seemingly for Toni Storm at World's End for the world title. They kind of teased that last week. It could just be a rematch with Chris Statlander. We haven't seen Statlander yet. It would make sense for her to say, look, I want a rematch. Because Statlander lost her title. It was a triple threat match. So she may want her belt back. It could just be as simple as that. You know, and they set up Statlander and Julia Hart for World's End. In the meantime, though, this was a W in the win column for her. It was unfortunate about the finish, but I thought the rest of the match was pretty good. RJ City was backstage in the hallway with Mariah May. And she said that she's hungry for more after coming off of her big run in Japan. She thanked RJ for connecting her with Toni Storm. And RJ said, we used to play squash together. Or was she talking about Toni Storm? Or maybe she was referring to Tony Khan here, because she was standing outside Tony Khan's office. But in any event, Mariah was clearly flirting with him. Not that she actually gives a shit about RJ City. She's playing everybody. This is the whole thing with the Mariah May character. It's going to come out that she's playing everybody here, including Toni Storm. But she was clearly flirting with RJ City. And he just was not picking up on this at all. He just told her, go get him. And then we saw that Mariah was standing outside Tony Khan's office. She knocks on his door. She let herself in, closed the door behind her. We don't know what was going on behind closed doors between Tony Khan and Mariah May. Just like we don't know what's going on every time we see B-Fab trying to chat up Bobby Lashley on SmackDown, and then they go off somewhere. Who knows where they're going? Who knows what they're doing? I don't know. But Mariah May went into Tony Khan's office. That was the last we saw of her. Maybe she's going to volunteer to step in for Toni Storm next week. I'm telling you, I think that's what's going to end up happening here. She may volunteer to take Tony's place. Wouldn't be a title match next week, but it would be against whoever her opponent was going to be. Then we had the TNT champion, Christian Cage, out to the ring. No Luchasaurus, no Nick Wayne, because Adam Copeland killed them, so they're gone for now. But Christian came out, and he had 5 security geeks standing behind him in the ring as he spoke. He invited Copeland to come out to the ring so they could talk. And there was no Adam Copeland. So he invited him again. No Adam Copeland. Because Copeland, for those of you who missed it, which was most of you, because it was on Collision, which was airing opposite Survivor Series, and I'm willing to bet that most of you were not watching Collision. Some of you maybe were. Some of you maybe are not WWE fans, right? This is a Dynamite review. So maybe some of you were watching Collision, but most people were watching Survivor Series on Saturday. Copeland issued a challenge to Christian in Montreal on Dynamite next week for the TNT title. So this was the follow-up. No Adam Copeland. Now Christian says, well, I guess I'll have to go backstage and find him. finally, Copeland, I don't know where he was. Was he taking a shit backstage? Maybe he was. He's like, oh shit, that's my cue. He had a, you got to wipe, you got to pull the pants up. Sometimes, look, I mean, he may have had to get out there real quick. Maybe he didn't even wipe. Maybe he just pulled the pants up. He's running through the hallway. He's got his little beanie on his head, and out he comes to the ring. This is what I'm talking about when I go back to the Mark Briscoe stuff earlier, man. Eating off the mat. You don't know. These people, did they wipe before they went out there? They're touching the mat. You got fecal matter all over the place. It's disgusting. Can't get over that. Copeland finally comes out. Christian now hides behind security. He says it was management's idea. They wanted the security guys out there. I don't want them out here. And he excuses them. And so the security leaves. And we end up with Copeland and Christian in the ring by themselves. Christian talks about Copeland challenging him to a match next week on Dynamite in Montreal. And he says, we're not going to make it to Montreal. He says, we're not going to make it to Montreal because I'm sorry. And you can hear the fans already chanting bullshit because they know where this is going. He says he's sorry, but the reason wasn't because Copeland took out Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus and that he corrected himself and he said Kill Switch. Because remember last week he rechristened him as Kill Switch, that he said the wrong name. And the fans let him have it. They said, you fucked up. He said he was on the road alone and he was doing a lot of soul searching recently and reflection, wondering how he got to be the way he is. And he brought up traveling the roads back in the day with Copeland in Toby the Taurus, which I think he said was Copeland's mother's car, and how they dreamed about making it big and becoming the greatest tag team that ever lived, which they did. Cage said that if you take the wrestling part of their relationship away, their friendship runs deeper. He said everyone knows that Copeland was raised by a single mother. It's like, oh, here we go. Here we go. He was raised by a single mother, and he did not have a father figure. Cage said that he wasn't suggesting that he was Copeland's father, but rather his brother. You're my brother. You know how many people thought they were real brothers for years after he came into WWE? Cage said his father is the one who welcomed Copeland into their family, and to this very day, he's still his biggest fan. He says, I love you, man. We're family. So then he remembered Copeland's mother passing away, Mother Judy. And he said that, she spoke to him before she passed about how great it would be if they teamed together once again. And then he said, let's do it for Judy, the Judemeister. And Copeland now is trying to process all this. And he turns around and he's thinking about it. And the crowd is obviously telling him don't fall for it. Christian now has the TNT title and he is getting ready to waffle his brother with this championship. But when he goes to do it, Copeland turns around, he kicks him in the balls. And Christian slides down. Copeland picks up the microphone. He says, nice try, dumbass. He told Christian, take that TNT title belt, shine it up. You could even go to sleep with it. Just he wants him to know that next week she's coming home with him. And then he says, by the way, I almost forgot. Tells Christian to go fuck himself, which got a big pop. And we heard every word of it. And I thought to myself, it's pretty impressive. All right, good. Finally, they didn't censor it. Like, what's the big deal, right? It's like, all right, cool. Good on them. Good on TBS for not censoring that line. And then 6 or 7 seconds go by, and you can hear them muting the crowd. So the censor had one job here and fell asleep at the wheel, and he completely missed the F-bomb. That was his only job. Just push the button. You've got a 7-second delay on this show, I assume, right? Just push the button. That's all you have to do. Nope. It slipped through. Somehow, 6 seconds went by, and then we got the censor. Amazing. If I was that bad at my job, I would be unemployed. But I love the segment. Christian is fantastic. I mean, you hear me say it every week, but Christian in this role is just beyond fantastic. And so now, the other thing about this I liked is the fact that they didn't allow Copeland to come across as a dumb babyface who falls for something that everybody in the building and everybody watching on television and even the announcers knew. This guy is full of shit, right? You can't believe a word he says. He didn't fall for it. He didn't allow himself to fall for it. He got the upper hand on Christian, told him to go fuck himself, and now we've got ourselves a TNT title match in Montreal between two Canadians next week. Edge and Christian have not had a match together, I don't believe, since 2010. I know it's been over a decade since we've seen them in the ring together one-on-one. So it feels like a big deal, even though, obviously we've seen Edge and Christian before. It's not a new match, but it feels fresh because it's in a different company, and it's been a very long time since we've seen it. Doing that match in Canada next week, I don't know how many tickets they've sold in Montreal, but Montreal's a great wrestling city. Usually when they go to Montreal, they're loud, they're into it, like a lot of the Canadian crowds are. I'm expecting a hot atmosphere for that match next week. And I'm also expecting either a Christian Cage win or some kind of cheap disqualification finish where he does something to save his title. And then that leads to a rematch, probably at World's End. So I would not go into this match expecting a clean finish. Remember what I said last week also, something else that could happen? Nick Wayne's mom, she was in the ring last week. And I'm thinking, well, why are they bringing her back? I thought her part here had kind of, they ran through that already. What is she back for? And right in front of her, what did Copeland do? He bashed her baby boy's brains in with a concerto, right in front of her. So if ever there was going to be a heel turn for Nick Wayne's mom, it could be coming next week in Montreal. That could be what gives Christian the win in their match. The main event was the third and final Gold League match of the night. Swerve Strickland one-on-one with Switchblade Jay White. Yeah, I was in Montreal many years ago for New Year's. It's a beautiful city. Although I went I went for New Year's Eve. So going to Canada that time of year, maybe not the smartest thing. It was a little chilly. Canada at the beginning of January, it's a little bit cold. But it's a beautiful city. So the rules are 20-minute time limit for all of these Continental Classic matches. And Tony Schiavone said that they were going to stick with the action no matter how long it took. Even if we go beyond the top of the hour, we're going to stick with this, okay? Prince Nana came out on stage to introduce Swerve. He had one crutch. He did not come down to the ring with Swerve because he's not allowed to. There's no managers allowed at ringside. There's no outside interference allowed in these matches. So even better than a great wrestling match we got between these two guys, we got a clean wrestling match. No interference from the Mogul Embassy, no interference from Bullet Club Gold. It was great. So White decided to take the fight outside the ring early. Strickland launched him into the barricade, though. Jay White returned the favor before going back to the ring, and then after Strickland's taped-up shoulder is what he targeted. White tried a baseball slide, but Strickland caught him coming in and sent him into the front row. And he was kind of hanging there. There was a fan who tried to hold Jay White back from Swerve as Swerve was trying to bring him back into the ring. And he was not a plant. He had nothing to do with this match. But he was getting up in Swerve's face, and he was trying to protect Jay White. And so Swerve yelled at him, and then security guy came over and said, "You better sit your ass down." Told him off. But Jay White ended up taking control heading into picture-in-picture. White kept Strickland grounded most of the break. He had a snap German and an underhook suplex into the corner. Strickland battled back. He hit a head scissors and a rolling flatliner into a spinning suplex for two. So fucking good. He's so good. White connected on a snap German, but he took too long to follow up. That allowed Swerve to throw a wild lariat, and now both men were down. We got a forearm exchange that led to Jay White crumbling in a heap, but it was all a ploy. He was playing possum, and he chop blocked Swerve's leg and then hit a Uranagi for two. Strickland fought off a sleeper suplex, so Jay White slapped on an armbar. Strickland rolled through, he trapped the arm, and he stomped down onto the arm for the kill shot. White almost got sent into the referee, just like last week. Remember what happened last week in his match? Almost got sent into Bryce Remsburg. And then when the referee was distracted, what happened? He low-blowed his opponent. He tried the exact same thing here to Swerve, but it did not work. He had it scouted. He caught the leg, and then he picked him up, and he slammed him. We got the house call kick, and then he followed up with a Swerve stomp. He had the match won, and Jay White kicked out. He got a shoulder up at 2.9. White hit a desperation Blade Runner, but Strickland wisely rolled to the floor. White brought him back into the ring, and both men traded near falls before we got the 15-minute time call from Justin Roberts. 15 minutes had gone by. That meant we had 5 minutes left in this match. White hit a sleeper suplex. Strickland, though, countered the Blade Runner into a roll-up for the flash pin, and he picks up 3 more points. That's 6 points now in total for Swerve Strickland. You know, when Justin Roberts announced there were 5 minutes left in the match, I thought for sure we were going to a draw. I thought they're not going to want to beat Jay White. They're not going to want to beat Swerve. We're going to get a draw here to go. Our first draw of the tournament to go off the air. And thankfully, that did not happen. Swerve picked up the win. 2 straight wins now for Swerve Strickland. I like that. I thought that was a nice fake out. The match itself was excellent. Man, run it back again at some point. I'd love to see it. Excellent main event, even better than the main event we had last week with Moxley and Mark Briscoe. And Swerve in the main event where he belongs. This is what I want to see more of. This is a position that I could get used to seeing him in main events here on this show. Hopefully, we have many more to come. And hopefully, as we get deeper into the tournament, it'll be him going to World's End. Again, I'm going to stick with my prediction that it's going to be Danielson and Swerve at World's End. And Danielson puts him over. I think that's the ticket. I think that's the way to go with this. But the updated standings, I'll show you right now. These are the current updated standings for the Gold League. After tonight, Jon Moxley and Swerve Strickland now have 6 points each. Roosh has 3. And then you got poor Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal. And Jay White as well. Jay White has 3. But poor Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal with a goose egg. Again, I'm not sure that Jay Lethal's going to win a single match in this entire thing. I'm looking at all of the opponents here, and I'm just thinking, like, who could he beat? You know, he's realistically, I don't know. I don't see it. Now on Collision this Saturday, Bryan Danielson is going to be back in action against Eddie Kingston in the Blue League. Also in the Blue League, Daniel Garcia takes on Andrade El Idolo. And Claudio Castagnoli goes one-on-one, first time ever match, taking on Brody King. That right there, that is going to be, I think, a hell of a match. So we got some good ones coming up on Collision this Saturday. Here's the Twitter poll for Dynamite. What did you guys think of this show? 68% of you said this was a thumbs up Dynamite. 31.7% said that this was a thumbs down show. Well, beats Raw. I'm pretty sure that 68% is higher than what Raw got. What did Raw get? Raw had like 56 or 58, I think, on Monday. Such promise, too, going into that show on Monday. But there you go. 68% thumbs up. Over 1,000 votes in. Get those votes on in. Let me know what you thought of Dynamite tonight. At Solomonster on Twitter is the place to go. We've got Ice Mocha. Lot of weed. Ice Mocha, lot of weed. I see. King Soul, what are your thoughts on the Taliban situation? Yeah, we're not touching that. And I see all these reports about twists and turns heading into WrestleMania, and now I'm starting to think, oh my God, they wouldn't. They couldn't. They didn't. You know why they didn't? I'm not even going to give them credit. You know why they didn't? Right here. This is why. I had my trusty voodoo doll, and I had my black pins, and I had my white pins, and as soon as the match started, I busted out, there he is right there, I busted out my little voodoo doll, and when Goldberg went to pick up Roman Reigns for that jackhammer, I went, right there. And Goldberg stumbled, and he dropped Roman Reigns. You know why? Because I had my voodoo doll, so you're welcome. The voodoo doll saved us from a Bill Goldberg Universal Championship win. I am convinced of that. I'm going to keep this for another day. I have a feeling with this company, I'm going to need it. There you go. Some classic sound-off clips here. Man, we are celebrating 16 years all month long. And you guys have made this a fun experience. All 16 years. Not all 16 have been on YouTube, but the YouTube years have been pretty fun too. So I thank you for that. Let's take a look. I still got my voodoo doll too, by the way. If I need it, I can bust it out anytime I want. All right, let's take a look at your super chats here. I want to thank you guys in advance for all of your support all month long. This has been the biggest month ever here on the channel. I will let you guys know that right now. We've had some big months. November is on track to be the biggest month ever here on the channel. So I thank you for that. The Winston Slip says, happy sweet 16 years of the Solomonster sounds off. Winston, thank you very much. Lady Fire Panda wants merch. Fire Panda merch. Also getting a PS5 for my birthday. Was supposed to get it tomorrow, but the order did not go through, so getting it on my birthday is gonna rock. That's pretty cool. There are people who would kill for a PS5 right now. Enjoy. Tuxedo T Servo. A big happy birthday to the chat's very own Fire Panda, from roguish anti-authority troll to moderator. She is our very own Triple H. May we find mercy in her reign of terror. Happy birthday, lady. There you go. What a nice message there from Tuxedo T Servo. Daniel Carlisto. No Don Callis tonight on Dynamite is unacceptable. Best manager in the business today. Yes, including Paul Heyman. Nick Grosso with the $9.99. What happened during the TBS title match? Did Emmy purposely botch the moonsault? I really hope this doesn't lead to Chris Statlander taking the title back at World's End. That would be terrible. No, I don't think she purposely botched anything. Again, I think she might have been trying to move into a better position, and everything just got all fucked up. But Statlander taking the title back is very possible, especially because they're in Long Island. I believe she is from Long Island. They could be setting up for a big hometown win for Chris Statlander at World's End. Prince Vegeta, it never made sense that Darby and Sting never got a shot at the tag team titles with them being undefeated. Did Tony Khan just not want to put the belts on them? Evidently not. Evidently they did not. Well, you know what? Sting is undefeated. And they point out the fact he's 24-0, whatever he is. If they win the tag team titles, that means they have to lose the tag team titles. And I think Tony Khan just didn't want Sting losing a match. You know, even whatever the match even is going to be at Revolution, he'll probably win there too. So that's the problem there. If he doesn't want them losing, you got to put the belts on them. They have to lose. He doesn't want Sting to lose. Nick Grosso says, so we got some developments with the Devil tag match next week. Not smart to put MJF in a match right now with how banged up he is. Do we get unmaskings next week? I would think we need some kind of development in this angle. So yeah, I think that we might get one or two men unmasked next week. I think there has to be some kind of a development here in this match. Although, you know, they never said that it had to be a masked tag team. It just said an unknown team. It could be unknown in that we don't know who it's going to be. And then some team shows up as some hired gun type situation. It doesn't mean they're going to be wrestling people in masks necessarily. The Mount Vernon Kid says, Solo, my younger brother Hulkling93 will be turning the big 3-0 on December 2nd, and my gift to him is taking him to SmackDown this Friday at the Barclays Center. You should have been taking him to Queens for the House of Glory show. That's where I'm going to be. And you could have introduced him to me. You made a mistake. You should be going to Hog. You shouldn't be going to SmackDown. Tisk, tisk. Well, we all have to make mistakes and learn from them in life, so. But do tell Hulkling that I said happy birthday from the Solomonster. Shawnee in the Wrestling says, rank these golden era tag teams. The Rockers, Demolition, Strikeforce, Brainbusters, Hart Foundation. Demolition, Hart Foundation, Brainbusters, Rockers, Strikeforce. In that order. Also says you can only have one. HBK against Eddie Guerrero 2005 or Hogan versus Austin 2002. Hogan versus Austin is, I mean, it would have been the biggest match. Not only the biggest match that they could have done, it would have been one of the biggest matches of all time. Hogan Austin in the Sky Dome? Yeah, my vote's going to that. I'm sure Shawn and Eddie would have been a great wrestling match, but Hogan Austin in the Sky Dome in Toronto at a WrestleMania, it don't get no bigger than that. Shawnee again dropping a $9.99. Man, Shawnee is all up in these super chats today. You must stay in a submission hold for 3 minutes. Out of these three, which will you choose? Crossface, Brock Lock, or the 1993 SummerSlam sharpshooter that Bret Hart put on Jerry Lawler? That's oddly specific. I have to stay in one for 3 minutes? Well, I don't want to be in the Brock Lock, I know that. I'll take the crossface. The Mount Vernon Kid, I saw your video on your mom. You have her smile. I'm somewhat envious of you. I lost my mom at the age of 13. My mother would have been 1 year older than yours, so I know what you go through every year. I'm sorry to hear that. Glad, though, that you were able to watch the video. I share it every year. I put it together a few years ago, and every year on her birthday, I share the video out. I just like knowing that it's just, you know, out there and people, you know, share it with other people, and it's an upbeat video. I didn't want it to be anything depressing, so hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did putting it together. But thank you, brother. The Nihilist, nothing like ending my 28th birthday with a Dynamite review from the Solomon. Boy, we have a lot of people celebrating birthdays, don't we? Yes, we do. We have Hulkling has a birthday, Fire Panda has a birthday, the Nihilist has a birthday. I feel like I'm FOMO. I have fear of missing out here. My birthday's already passed. Eric Deshawn, bad news. Tore my back at work and need to stay home for a whole week. Good news, I get to watch Solomonster more often. Take the bad with the good. See, that's the right attitude to take. That sucks, though. You tore your back, so, I mean, are you going to need surgery? You tore your back. That doesn't sound too good. I know people sometimes will put their back out, and then they're out of commission for a few days. But if you tore your back, I mean, that doesn't sound good. So hopefully that is nothing serious. Hopefully they don't have to cut you open or anything like that. But yeah, you got a lot of content to keep you busy, so. The Solomonster has the best t-shirts in the post-show game. You like my electric blue? I think so. I think I agree with you. I think I do have the best shirt. Fuck everybody else. Bobbert Reviews, happy birthday, Fire Panda. Again, thank you, Bobbert, for the $25. Very nice of you. Parents were busy in February. Apparently, yeah. All these people were getting down. I don't know what it was. I guess Valentine's, right? There you go. That's what it was. That's what it was. The husband comes home. He gives the wife flowers and gives the wife some chocolate. All right, chocolate is a key to a woman's heart. If it's not a diamond, it's got to be chocolate, right? You bring home the Valentine's gift. You turn on the charm. You take her out to dinner. She's in a good mood. She's got that little twinkle in her eye. You go back home, and there you go. 9 months later, Fire Panda pops out. That's how it happens, right? That's how it works. I think Alexa Bliss and Ryan Cabrera also, they just had their child. And Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello, they also had their baby the other day. People popping out babies left and right here. F you. What What's your favorite finishing move and submission? Oh, of course, I have to say the sharpshooter. Sharpshooter's an awesome move. That's my favorite submission. Come on, man. Arabian Night 2000, would you say Swerve is the biggest loss for WWE in the last 3 years? They did not know what they had. Also, is Vikingo signed? His aura is gone. Sadly, a shame. I don't think he's officially signed a contract with them. To my knowledge, I don't believe he's signed. Obviously, he's got some kind of agreement, and he's making a lot of appearances for that. I agree, though. He doesn't have the same aura he did when he first came in. Swerve was a huge loss for WWE. It's just like, I don't think they knew what to do with him. If you remember when they called up Hit Row initially, I think didn't they have him teaming with Top Dollar? I mean, it was like, I have no faith that had he stuck around and not, he got released. I have no faith that they would have done right by him. Now, under current WWE, if Triple H has the power that he seemingly has, I think Swerve would have done well. But they just didn't, I agree, they didn't really know what they had in him back then. It was a drop ball. I mean, it really was. Look at a lot of the people that have been released and left WWE. Keith Lee, I mean, poor Keith Lee, but Swerve is the one now you look at him and go, how did they miss on him? DEH Sires, it appears there's drama in the AEW locker room again. You can't post a comment like that without any context. I have no idea what you're talking about. You got to specify what it is that you're talking about. Come on, DEH. Barry MK, if you were in Vince's spot, what would you have done about Batista and John Cena falling out of the ring at the same time in the 2005 Royal Rumble? I would have done the exact thing that they did. I would have restarted the Rumble, and I would have had them go until Batista won. Which is what they did. Except Vince, of course, had to rumble down to the ring because he was all angry, and then he tore his fucking legs. Or he tore one leg, and then he tore the other one later in the back. So he sat there like an idiot. But I would have done the exact same thing without the quad tear. I would have come out, I would have the Commissioner Solomonster would have come out and restarted the Royal Rumble. That's what Jack Tunney, that fucking idiot, should have done back in 94 with Brett and Luger. 15 minutes of standing around the ring and talking and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then Howard Finkel goes, the winners are Bret Hart and Lex Luger. Fuck off. That's what they should have done in 94. Good old on the take Tunney. DEH Sires, 18 to 28. No boyfriends, no husbands, meet me at my hotel. Ric Flair at the Rampage taping tonight, and Britt complaining about not getting TV time on... Oh, is that the drama? Okay, well, I take back what I said before. He did put context here to what he said. So according to him, Britt Baker was complaining about not getting television time on Twitter. And Ric Flair told people to come to... Well, Ric Flair telling people to come to his hotel room is just Ric Flair being Ric Flair. The fuck did Tony Khan think he was getting when he signed this guy to a contract? Thought he was getting a Boy Scout? I mean, please. 74-year-old man who still thinks he's 24. Drinks like it, too. Britt Baker complaining about not getting television time. I mean, I have to see what she said. Let me see if I can see what she said. Let's see what Britt Baker said. Britt Baker not happy with lack of promo time is the headline here from PW Insight. So Britt Baker said, tonight's Dynamite, MJF live promo time 7 minutes. Christian Cage promo time 10 minutes. All of 2023 on Dynamite. Britt Baker live promo time 0 minutes. Makes you wonder though, right? If Britt Baker is the devil. I'm sure that'll get people talking. Is she really upset, or is she the devil? I don't know. Look, I mean, if she's upset, she's within her rights to speak her mind, but the last thing this company needs is more fucking drama. That's the last thing that Tony Khan needs. She's not wrong. She didn't say anything there that's inaccurate. But, you know, for their sake, though, hopefully it is part of some storyline, because, again, it's like never-ending drama with this company. It's unbelievable. It really is. If she has a problem with not getting promo time, like legitimately has a problem with not getting promo time, you know what I would do? And maybe she has. Maybe she has, and she's frustrated because it didn't work, and so now she's going public. But I would go to my boss and say, hey, boss, can we talk? You know, I haven't gotten any promo time all year long on television. Would be nice if I had the chance to go out there and to say a few words. I'd really like to have that opportunity. I would hope she talked to him first instead of just going to social media and bitching about it. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway, thank you, DEH, for adding some context onto the earlier super chat. Casey is Raw, gaming and wrestling. My inside source tells me that Black Scorpion, I mean the devil, is Ric Flair. DEH says Emi Sakura hasn't won a TV match in 3 years. And she's not going to in probably the next 3 years. Arabian Night, where's Thunder Rosa? Women's division needs a jolt ASAP. I'll tell you who would give the women's division a jolt. Her name is Mercedes, and she posted a video on her social media today. She's training for a return. Now the question is, where will she be returning? Is it going to be WWE? Is it going to be with New Japan for Stardom? Is it going to be AEW, who gave her a nice box seat at Wembley Stadium and put her on camera a whole bunch of times at All In? Right? Tony Khan has talked about having some nice conversations with her. Where is she going to land? That would give the women's division a jolt. More than Thunder Rosa or anybody else. Britt Baker. That's the jolt that division needs. Corey Hodgson. Silver Tower. Oh my goodness. Silver Tower has been banned from Collision. CM Punk still flexing his muscle here. What did you do? What did you do to piss him off? Corey says, Spotify says Solomonster Sounds Off was my #1 podcast for 2023. I listened for a mere 6,451 minutes. Thanks for making 16 years of content. Thank you, Corey. I've been getting messages all day. Everybody got their Spotify Wrapped. And I've got so many messages from people showing that the Sound Off was their #1 most listened to podcast of any kind, wrestling or otherwise, for the entire year. And some people are in the top 20% of listeners. Some people are in the top 0.1% of Sound Off. There's one person who had 67,000 minutes. 67,000 minutes of Sound Off listening time in 2023. You guys are awesome. I don't even know how that's possible. Trill Mexican 305. Question for you. Had he not passed away, what would have been the better fit for Gino Hernandez? A member of the Four Horsemen in the NWA or the $1 Million Man in the WWF? Happy 16 years. I think the Four Horsemen, I think. Yeah, I think the Horsemen would have been a good fit for Gino Hernandez. Not that he couldn't have made the $1 Million Man gimmick work. I mean, he might have, but I could see him in the Four Horsemen. I think he would have fit in there very well. The only question is if he was going to replace somebody, whose spot would he have gotten? Because he's more of the Ric Flair, right? He's like the ladies' man of the group. The Horsemen were perfect as is, though. Like, I would hate him taking the spot of, like, Tully or someone like that. So, I just don't know that that would have worked. Flair, it had to be Flair. Flair is Flair, you know, back then. But Gino as a Horseman, I think, could have worked. Maybe he would have been the 5th Horseman. Reek Gotti. What would you do if Mariah May kissed you like she did RJ City in her debut? I probably wouldn't wash my face for a week. Actually, I would make it a super chat. So that way, I would make it the new $1 super chat. So every stream, every 5 minutes, you would see it popping up on screen. That's what I would do. That way, all of you can relive that moment with me every single week. That's what I would. Silver Tower, thank you for the $7. And Erica the Shawn with the $10 super chat. Not a serious back injury that requires surgery. Just pulled a few muscles, but still hurts like hell. Lesson learned, always lift with your legs. That is a good lesson. Always lift with your legs. Not always applicable, but at least you don't need surgery, though. That's good. You don't want to have back surgery. Juice Robinson just had back surgery. Randy Orton just came back from 18 months out of action after back surgery. Silver Tower again, banned from Collision. I like being banned, CM Punk, Senpai. I am into that sort of thing. Well, you're a weird guy, so... But you know what, though? You're a very unique guy. You just be yourself. You should just be yourself, because you're awesome, just the way you are. There you go. Just had my little Stuart Smiley moment there. Silver Tower, thank you for the 2 super chats. Darkman says, Silver Tower is a super freak. I want to thank everybody, by the way, who has joined as a member or who has gifted memberships over the past week to the channel, because we are currently at a record number. Hopefully that number will continue to climb. But we are at a record number in excess of 1,000 channel members here on the channel for the very first time. And Fire Panda tacked on 30 new gifted memberships. We are, of course, heading into the Christmas season. It is 'tis the season of giving, so a great time to gift some memberships if that's something you would like to do. But the goal tonight for Be the Booker was 400, and I am very happy to announce that we are currently standing at 466. So thank you for helping us reach the goal for Be the Booker. I very much appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You guys are always awesome. Bring on Be the Booker. Okay, we can do that. Let's be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Let's go ahead and book some matches. This will be the last time we do Be the Booker all week. I'll tell you why here in a second, but we have got our Be the Booker starting out here with tag teams. Someone just had me rank tag teams before, right? Demolition, Hart Foundation, Strike Force. They're all in here. The Rockers, the Brainbusters, they're all in here. We got some quality tag teams in here, including 2 men who we saw on Dynamite tonight, Edge and Christian. Maybe we'll land on them. Well, here's a team for you. The Brothers of Destruction, Kane and The Undertaker, who would be scary enough if they didn't have sledgehammers in their hand. Here they have sledgehammers in their hand, which makes them even scarier. So we have Undertaker and Kane. This is from 90. I could tell just based on what they're wearing. This is from 98. This is Attitude Era, Prime, Undertaker and Kane. See, there it is right there. Tony Khan making his pitch to Mercedes Moné. Tony, take your hands off her. Get out of here. Take your hands off her. It's very inappropriate. That's how Tony's going to make his big pitch to Mercedes. He's just going to grab her and just hug her, not let go. Undertaker and Kane are going to be taking on Jay and Mark Briscoe. Wow. Now I am sad all over again. But imagine that. Undertaker and Kane, the brothers of destruction against the real brothers, the Briscoe brothers. That would have been a fucking phenomenal match. What a great match that would have been. That will be certainly, I think, the saddest, well, one of the saddest. We had some real losses this year. But that will definitely be one of the sadder stories of 2023. All right, let's go over to the women's side here. Women's Be the Booker. All right, let's kick things off here with Marina Shafir. Marina Shafir, who tagged recently with her best friend, Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey is in Be the Booker. We can get Marina Shafir against Ronda Rousey. Marina Shafir going to go one-on-one with Saraya. How are we feeling about this? Saraya and Marina Shafir. That's how we're feeling. Yeah, I think not. I think not. Why is her mouth open like that? All right, let's move on. Men's Be the Booker. All right, well, we're not going to get the clean sweep. But we could still end up 2 out of 3. That's what we're aiming for here. A Jazz Jackrabbit. Drop it a super chat. I'm going to get to your super chats here in a second. We got some more coming in. Apparently people wanted the last word. All right, here we go. Men's Be the Booker. We begin with the Bruiserweight. Pete Dunne. We just landed on him last week. We had Pete Dunne and we had Sheamus. Are we going to get Pete Dunne and Sheamus again? Pete Dunne, for the second time in as many weeks, is in Be the Booker. Oh man, we gotta book a main event match. Pete Dunne one-on-one with, oh, for fuck's sake. You got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. The words had barely left my lips that I'm trying to book a main event match, and we land on Flop Dollar. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Amazing. Well, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless. Not even Pete Dunne could save that. There's just nothing that could be done. What could Pete Dunne do with Top Dollar? Do over? That's not the rule, though. The rule, you can't just do it over because you didn't like what it was. I mean, look, if we have one of those new $69 super chats that pops up, we'll do it over. Otherwise, like, come on, man. The rules are in place for a reason here. We can't just redo it because you don't like it. That's not how this works. Come on now. You know the rules. Can't cheat like that. Man. AJ Allegiant. CM Punk left AEW out of fear of Christian. Well, CM Punk also did he not have a father, right? His father was, what's the story with his father? CM Punk's father. His father was an alcoholic or something, or I don't remember all of a sudden what his story was. We have Jazz Jackrabbit. Hope Hogg is going to be awesome this week. Are you headed to Philly for WrestleMania next year? Also, who do you think will headline next year's Hall of Fame class? I think there's a very good chance that Bray Wyatt may headline next year's Hall of Fame class. But Batista still has not gotten his induction, so could be Bray, could be Batista. Am I going to WrestleMania in Philly? No, I'm not going to WrestleMania. I will be here with you for both nights of WrestleMania. Doesn't mean I won't be other places, though. will say no more. Uffman Entertainment with the $2 super chat. 67,000 minutes is 1,117 hours, says Alexa. Hey, Griga, what's going on, Griga? 1,117 hours. That is a lot of sound. I don't even think I could listen to myself for 1,117 hours. But thank you for computing that for all of us. Scott Woodford just got back from AEW. And? Scott, what's the verdict? What did you think? I heard Ric Flair made a stupid comment at the Rampage tapings. I mean, come on, update me on what's going on here. And Arabian Night, wonder if Bandito regrets not going to WWE last year. Yeah, where the fuck is Bandito? I mean, he broke his wrist. He got the pins out. He's been good to go, I think, for a while, and no Bandito. And before he got hurt, he was getting over, too. Like, he'd be out there, and his matches were getting over. No Bandito. Where the fuck is Bandito? I thought he was all healed up and ready to go. He sounded drunk. Scott says that Ric Flair said, when does Ric Flair not sound drunk? He sounds drunk every time he speaks. He was doing a television interview. I said he was doing publicity for the Dynamite show, and his face was like beet red. He looked like he had 3 sheets to the wind before he even went out there in studio. Probably drinking all morning. I think it was the morning show, actually. Probably had 5 tequila sunrises, couple shots, Crown Royal. I don't know. What does he drink these days? I know what he drinks. He drinks that fucking energy drink. Actually, I'll bet you he doesn't. I'll bet you anything he doesn't actually drink that shit. He'll make money off of it, but he won't drink it. Ric Flair hasn't sounded sober in years. That's just how he sounds. Casey says apparently that is 46 and a half days nonstop. Well, it doesn't mean he's listening nonstop to the sound off. I mean, he'd become delirious if he did that. Kriga says, I wasn't aware that Zion Quinn has been on the main. No, Zion Quinn was a free agent, or is a free agent. So is Von Wagner, by the way. They are free agents. I should drink the Woo energy drink on stream. Yeah, I don't know about that. DEH Sire says, what match would make you go to WrestleMania 40? I have a job to do here. This is where I will be, WrestleMania weekend. At least for the WrestleMania shows. So, honestly, I don't think there's any match that will make me go to WrestleMania next year. They could do Stone Cold Steve Austin and CM Punk, and I would still be here to review it for all of you. WrestleMania is the biggest weekend every year here on this channel. So I don't really see the need to go to WrestleMania unless WrestleMania was in a fun place like Vegas or New Orleans again. Then I would definitely have to consider going to WrestleMania. But otherwise, this is where I'll be. Arabian Night, will Sable ever go into the Hall of Fame? What is the heat? I don't know that there is any heat. I mean, she came back to the company. There was heat, and then she came back in 2003. I don't know that there's any lingering heat. I think, maybe she just doesn't want to go in. Maybe Brock said she's not going in, and they're like, aye, aye, Captain. All right. I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't want to do it. Orlando was awesome. I was at the one in Orlando. The set, the stage and the set for WrestleMania in Orlando was just, in my opinion, it was the greatest WrestleMania set until this year. I think this year probably topped it. So I think if I had to rank the best WrestleMania stages, I think I'd go WrestleMania 39 and then WrestleMania 33. Now, yeah, Austin, I was going to get to that. So I mentioned before that was going to be the last Be the Booker that we do this week. And the reason is because on Friday night, I will not be here. There will be no SmackDown stream. Be aware that Randy Orton is coming to SmackDown this Friday. They have not said that CM Punk will be there, but Randy Orton is going to be on the show, which makes sense because Randy Orton has said that he is going to be coming for the Bloodline. Randy Orton is likely wrestling Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. So they may kick that off on Friday night. They will be in Brooklyn. They will be here in my backyard for SmackDown this week. I, however, will be over in Queens because House of Glory is having its final show of 2023. It's called The Darkest Hour. And we have put together a card that I think rivals any other card that the promotion has ever done. And we will have Swerve Strickland, who you saw tonight in the main event of Dynamite. He's going from the main event of Dynamite tonight to House of Glory on Friday to wrestle Speedball Mike Bailey. And he's bringing Prince Nana with him, too. So we're gonna be doing the dance. We're gonna be doing the dance on Friday night at the NYC Arena. We're all gonna be dancing. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Matt Cardona will defend the world title against Mike Santana. And we have a whole bunch of other matches as well. The Grizzled Young Veterans are making their Hog debut. They're going to be wrestling as well for the tag team titles. And Gringo Loco is coming to House of Glory as well for the very first time. So anyway, there are still some tickets available. You can go to hogwrestling.net if you want to come to the building and watch the show. I promise you it's going to be fun. And if you see me, you can say hello. Come over and say hi. I won't bite. I'm not like that freak Silver Tower. You never know what he's going to do. Or you can stream it. It's going to be streaming on Premier Streaming Network. So it's not Fight. Just go to watchonpremiere.com and you can order the show from there. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a big, big show. Big, big night. Swerve and Mike Bailey is going to, as they say, be a banger. Silver Tower says, how much do I have to donate to get you to drink Woo Energy on the street? Brother, I don't think there's enough money. I don't think there's enough money to get me to drink a Woo Energy on the stream. You'd have to donate too much, man. I don't want to put you out. You'd have to donate like, it'd have to be at least $400, man. We're gonna set the bar real high. I don't even know where do they sell these? Do they even have these in stores? Do you have to order it online? I don't even know where they sell these. Yeah, you gotta have like ABK money. That's right. You gotta have ABK money. But yeah, I don't even know where you buy them from. I don't know if they're in stores yet, if they're in the Northeast. Oh no, he said deal. Oh shit. Did I say 400? I meant 500. There you go. Anyway, that'll be Friday night. So just a little FYI for those of you wondering why there's no SmackDown stream. Now you know. Now you know. All right. Well, look, this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me, keeping me company here on a Wednesday night. I hope you enjoyed the review. I enjoyed Dynamite. I thought it was a very good professional wrestling show. We got some very good wrestling in the Continental Classic. We had a fun promo segment with Copeland and Cage that now leads into their title match in Montreal next week. And we had another development in the Devil Angle involving MJF. So we did have some storyline progression on the show. It wasn't just wrestling matches. We had a nice mix. So I thought it was a very good show. Got to wear a hazmat suit to drink that stuff. They have 3 flavors, I think, right? Is it 3? There's like 3 different varieties of this Woo Energy. I know they have the different mushrooms in there. I told you, cordyceps. I want nothing to do with cordyceps. I've seen what happens when people get involved with cordyceps. I don't want to have anything to do with that. Next time I'm going to be live with you will be next Monday for Raw. Hopefully that's a much better show than the one we got this past Monday, because I don't know what the fuck that was, but that is not what I was hoping for. All right, be well, stay safe, and we'll do this again very soon. 16 years of the Solomonster sounds off. Thank you guys again. Appreciate it. Love you guys. And I see all these reports about go watch my twin lick some ass on Rampage on Friday night on TNT. You can imagine the comments under this tweet. This seems more suitable for AEW After Dark than it would Dark or Rampage. Winston Churchill. Jesus Christ. I gotta take a drink here. Holy shit. I don't know where that came from.